Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Friday, June 12th edition of the MMAOB Daily Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam Merton, and I'll be taking you guys through the latest in the world of mixed martial arts. Riding solo today, but you can go back and check out Tuesday's podcast if you want to hear myself and Cole Shelton break down UFC Fight Night I versus Calvillo, which takes place tomorrow. Possibly we could get some updates as far as fighters potentially, being scratched the last minute during this podcast, but the weigh-ins are a little bit later, so I don't know if we'll get any of that kind of news, although there were a few last-minute shuffles yesterday. I'll talk about that later, but I got a lot to talk about today. There was a lot of announcements for new upcoming mega fights this week. During Tuesday's show, we covered quite a bit, and then literally an hour after the show, a bunch of big fights broke, including UFC 251, which will take place on Fight Island. The official announcement happened. I'm going to start with that, and we'll get through the rest of the fights as well. But let's start with UFC 251 because this was the big announcement this week. So it'll take place July 11th at Yas Island in Abu Dhabi. Last week on this podcast, I believe it was last Friday, I told you guys that I had heard it was going to take place in Abu Dhabi. Sure enough, it will take place there. So my sources were actually right, which is pretty cool. Man, I'm excited for this. Some people have kind of been let down a little bit, disappointed by the announcement. They thought it was on some little island in the middle of nowhere, but you know what? I know Dana hyped it up a little bit, maybe too much, but how could you not be excited? We get to watch live fights, and there's some really great fights coming up. I don't know how you can't be excited about this. I'm personally really just pumped. I can't wait. I mean, the whole month of July is going to be awesome. There's 4 events there. Basically, they're doing Vegas this month. Next month will be Yas Island, and then I think August will be Vegas again. But it's pretty great. I'm pretty excited. I'm going to start with UFC 251, and then I'll talk about some of the other cards as well that have been kind of announced. But UFC 251 is the big one. And honestly, this card is so stacked. When I saw the poster, I was like, holy crap, I can't wait till July 11th. This card is ridiculous. Main event of the evening, Kamaru Usman against Gilbert Burns. Okay, so there's obviously a lot to unpack with this one. It sucks that Jorge Masvidal is not fighting for the belt, okay? I wanted to see that fight. All of us did. He was not able to come to an agreement with the UFC. That's the end of the story. They couldn't come to a deal with him. I hope that the UFC can figure out a deal with Masvidal in the near future. I want to see him back in the cage. It's pretty crazy that this guy, after being the fighter of the year in 2019, and everyone assuming he was going to get the title shot, got bounced in favor of Gilbert Burns, who kind of came out of nowhere. So it's pretty crazy. It's a crazy sport. A lot of unexpected things happen. If you asked someone a year ago, after Masvidal knocked out Ben Askren, who would get the title shot first at 170, Gilbert Burns or Masvidal, there is no one on the face of the earth that would have said Gilbert Burns would have got the title shot first. So it's pretty nuts that he's getting the title shot, but honestly, it's well-deserved. I mean, look at what these guys did at 170. It's been incredible. Obviously, beating Woodley, dominant unanimous decision in his last fight, knocking out Damian Maia, first guy in 11 years since Nate Marquardt, only the second guy in Damian Maia's career to knock him out. Also, obviously, Gunnar Nelson and Alexei Kanchenko. He's on a 6-fight win streak overall. 4 fights in a row at welterweight. And if you look back to his previous fight at welterweight, I think it was 2015. It's actually 5 straight fights with wins at welterweight for Gilbert Burns. So the guy is an absolute stud. He's ranked number 1 right now. If you go by the rankings, you should get the title shot. Again, we know that the rankings don't matter that much in the sport. It's about big fights. They weren't able to come to an agreement with Masvidal. It sucks. I wanted to see Masvidal fight for the belt. That's the fight they should have made. But this is the best replacement fight you can ask for, honestly. Gilbert Burns is an absolute stud. The guy wants to fight. He loves fighting. He's in there. This is his 3rd time in the last 5 months. That's crazy. So this guy is an absolute beast. I can't wait for this fight. The odds have actually come out for this fight, Usman versus Burns. They opened at Usman minus 175, Burns plus 150. Right now we have, let's see here, UFC 251. Where is it? Okay, it's right here. Minus 190 for Usman, plus 165 for Burns. So not really too much room, but a little bit towards Usman, which makes sense, I think, considering his win streak, 11 straight fights in a row he's won in the UFC, unbeaten in the UFC. He's lost once in his career. I think it was 2013 to a guy in Florida, but since then he's unbeatable. So, Gilbert Burns has looked amazing, but he's lost quite a few times now in the UFC, so I can definitely understand why Usman's favored. Having said that, how could you count Burns, though? I mean, the guy's winning as a dog almost every fight now, so this is an amazing fight, honestly. Again, I wanted to see Masvidal versus Usman. We didn't get that fight. To me, this is the next best fight. Leon Edwards would have been a great fight too. Apparently, UFC did ask him, but due to travel restrictions, he couldn't get out of the UK to get to Yas Island. So, unfortunately, Leon Edwards, he's kind of had a rough year. I mean, the fight with Woodley got pulled out. Burns took his spot, got the big fight with Woodley, won that fight, and then gets a title shot now. So, Leon Edwards has had some bad luck. Gilbert Burns, though, has had some good luck. And Gilbert Burns is really taking advantage of the opportunities. You gotta love that, man. Guy gets an opportunity, really runs with it. I absolutely love seeing that. So I couldn't be happy for Gilbert. He's a great guy, great interview, and a tremendous fighter. So he's really deserving of this title shot, in my opinion. And this is a tremendous main event. I think this card will do pretty well. I know Usman's not like a draw, but the fact that there is 3 title fights in this card, including a lot of big names on the undercard, I think this card's going to do pretty well, especially with the Yaz Island thing. I think people are going to want to tune in and see what it's all about. So I expect this pay-per-view to actually do pretty well when it comes out in July. I got Kevin. I see you had some questions here, Kevin. I'll get to them in a bit. I want to talk about UFC 251 first, and I'll get to UFC Fight Nights in a little bit. But I want to start with UFC 251. Okay, so obviously I talked about Usman Burns. Next fight would be Volkanovski versus Holloway 2. Now, okay, I can see the disappointment for this fight. Like, I was at the last fight with Volkanovski and Holloway. Volkanovski won every round, basically. It wasn't that much of a competitive fight. But the thing is, Max had won 14 straight fights at 145 before that. Max was a great champion. He is a great fighter and a great ambassador of the sport. I think this is the UFC doing Max a favor. He took that fight against Dustin Poirier last year. He really shouldn't have taken that fight. It was an amazing fight, but it wasn't a good matchup for him. He never really should have moved up to lightweight, in my opinion, and it hurt him. So, he was a busy guy last year with 3 fights. He did the UFC some solids, and I think they're doing him a solid here, giving him a title shot. Having said that, I mean, Volkanovski obviously should be pretty highly favored in this fight, if you ask me. And right now, we do see Volkanovski as a minus 190 favorite and plus 165 dog for Holloway. So actually the same odds as Usman Burns, which is kind of crazy. I got to favor Volkanovski this time around, but you can't count Max out. I mean, Max is a great fighter. He makes adjustments. He's great. So definitely an interesting fight. But yeah, I mean, right now you got to favor Volk. After seeing what happened just a few months ago, right? He pretty much dominated the fight. Kenshiro Dojo, what's going on, man? Burns might be the only man who's a chance to beat Usman in 2020 due to many unknown factors and his momentum heading in this fight. Burns should have more explosive stand-up power than Usman. Yeah, he definitely has a chance to win the fight. This is not a blowout fight by any means. It's a very, very competitive matchup. I think the line is pretty much where it needs to be. I think you have to give Usman that respect. 11 straight wins. I mean, that's not easy to do. So, in my opinion, the line is set pretty fairly. But I'm with you, man. Burns has looked amazing, and he's fought very often. He's fought twice since Usman's last fought. So, momentum is huge in the sport. I always look at momentum when I'm picking fights, and Usman has a lot of momentum. Burns has a lot of momentum. But then again, Usman does too, right, with the 11 straight wins. So, to me, it's just a great fight. I'm really looking forward to it. And you have another question here or comment. Max should take another year off. He has taken a lot of damage. I don't think he can beat Volkanovski. Yeah, he has. He's fought 3 times in the last year. It'll be his 4th fight within, just like 15, 16 months. That's a lot of fights. So he's fighting once every 4 months, basically, which is actually a lot for a champ. Most champs fight once every 6 to 8 months. So you got to give up to Max, man. But at the same time, I don't really like the matchup for him. But we'll see what happens. Who knows, right? Like, honestly, with all the fights that have been kind of ripped apart and guys pulling out the last second, don't be surprised that Max doesn't end up fighting this fight. Like, you could easily see a guy like Zabit or Korean Zombie or someone step in, possibly. Who knows, really? At this point, all these fights are TBD. They really are. Like, you hope they're going to happen, but we've seen a lot of fights get scratched at the last minute, so nothing surprises me these days. The other title fight in this card, I've already talked about this fight a few times on the podcast, obviously, but it'll be Petr Yan taking on Jose Aldo for the vacant bantamweight belt. And right now, we have the odds for that fight. Petr Yan is a pretty big favorite, minus 225, Aldo plus 185. This fight I've talked about already many times on this podcast. Don't love the matchup because I don't think Aldo should get the title shot. Now, I'm one of those people that thought he did beat Marlon Moraes. I thought he won that fight, but on paper, he's lost 2 straight fights. Yes, it was to Volkanovski and to Moraes, who were both incredible fighters, so those aren't bad losses, but the fact he's getting the title shot over Sterling is kind of crazy in my opinion. So, I've talked about this already at length on this podcast. I could sit here and complain about it, but at the end of the day, Aldo is a legend in the sport. He's getting a lot of respect here from the UFC. But, if Petr Yan wins the fight, I think the right man won, and the right man's going to be the champion. I think Petr Yan is the best bantamweight in the world right now, personally. But we got to see what happens here against Aldo. It's an interesting matchup. Aldo obviously has a lot of experience. He's got great striking, good takedown defense, but Yan is so much younger, so explosive, and so much momentum. So that's why I would favor Petr Yan. Petr Yan should be minus 450. Kenshiro. Yeah, that seems high, but I mean, I think he's going to win too. I don't see any way I would pick Jose Aldo in this fight. Spoiler alert, but when we come to doing the UFC 251 breakdowns, I'm pretty sure I'm going to pick Petr Yan. There's not too much to like about Aldo here in my opinion. He's a lot older. The only thing you could like, I guess, is the experience, but especially in a 5-round fight, like how's that weight cut going to affect him? He already struggled a bit to make that weight the last time against Moraes. He did end up making it, good for him, but I can't see this going well for him in a 5-round fight. Having said that, this is a big step up for Jan too. I mean, Faber was a good opponent. We saw what happened when Jose Aldo fought Faber 10 years ago. It wasn't even close. So to me, Aldo's actually a big step up from Faber. But I would have rather seen Sterling or Moraes, because Moraes was supposed to get the fight against Jan first. You gotta feel bad for Moraes, man, because he's actually ranked number 1 right now, and he's kind of getting screwed over by everything that's going on in this division. But if he keeps winning his fights, he'll be okay. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with this fight. But the rest of the card, those are the 3 title fights, and then the rest of the card, you got 2 women's fights, which some people think it's just they want to just put girls in the main card, but I actually think these are decent fights. Like Andrade versus Namajunas 2 is a great fight, obviously a main card fight. The other fight, Ribas versus Van Zandt, I don't agree with this fight opening the main card personally. This shouldn't be a pay-per-view. It's a decent fight. Van Zandt is getting a huge spot here. I'm surprised because she's a free agent, so this is the last fight of her deal. Ribas is also a strawweight moving up to flyweight, so this is all for Paige Van Zandt, in my opinion. Like, it's almost like the UFC is doing their solid, saying, hey, you know what, we do care about you. We do want to promote you. Hopefully she wins and she gets a big contract and stays with them. But personally, I don't like the matchup for her that much. And although I don't agree with the betting line, by the way, I mean, the betting line's out there right now and it's too high. Like minus 600 for Amanda Ribas, guys. How? Plus 450 in Van Zandt. Ribas probably wins the fight. Minus 600. That seems kind of crazy to me. I don't agree with that at all. I remember we talked about this a few weeks ago. I think I said Van Zandt should be like minus 200 or 250 or something. Minus 600? That seems crazy. Sorry, I meant to say Ribas. Ribas should be favored in this fight, obviously, but to me, Van Zandt at plus 450, like I see a lot of people throwing a few bucks on her because at those odds, that's kind of nuts. Kenshiro says Ribas about to put the proper beer in Paige Van Zandt. You think she should be a bigger favorite? Yeah, I mean, possibly. They're doing this to build Ribas. She's going to smoke Paige Van Zandt. Guys, you have to remember, this is actually not a strawweight. This is a flyweight, so who knows how the size is going to look. I know she's looked a lot bigger than her last 3 opponents. She's great, man. I like Ribas, but minus 600, really, guys? Like, I don't agree with that at all. Like, why is she a minus 600 favorite? Her best opponent is who? Mackenzie Dern? Like, someone with not that much experience? I don't really agree with it. Ribas probably wins the fight. Again, she's a huge favorite, but I just think it's too high, personally. I missed this comment by you, Kenshiro. Aldo Sterling should be able to put the squeeze on Peter Yan because Yan is a big guy. Aldo's strong on weight. Met him before. Yeah, Aldo's great, man. He looked amazing. Paige Van Zandt does more bikini shoots. It's true. She definitely hasn't been looking too good. Kevin Scott, who's Paige Van Zandt's biggest friend, Beck Rawlings. Yeah, dude, I'm not picking Paige Van Zandt. I don't think. I mean, who knows? Like, I'm going to obviously think about the fight a little bit more. But I don't see why Paige is a plus 450 dog. Like, it just seems kind of crazy to me. I agree with you, though. Like, her best win is probably Felice Herrig, by the way. If you look at her record, Felice just got her fight now, so I'll talk about her later. But I guess it'd be Felice. But for Ribas, Durner or Marcos, but, she's looked great. Don't get me wrong. I like Ribas a lot, man. She's great. But again, it's a different weight class, and I just don't see why she should be a massive favorite. Like, she's the biggest favorite in the card right now. I'm just not seeing it. Like, a guy like Cyril Gahn, that guy should be a bigger favorite than he is, in my opinion. Anyways, let's move on to the next fight here. What's the next fight? Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's the main card. Now, the prelims, there's some good fights here. A fight I talked about the other day, Volkan Oezdemir against Yuri Prochazka. The odds are out for that one right now. We got Volkan minus 150, Prochazka plus 130. That makes sense. Volkan's got the experience in the UFC, but man, Yuri is definitely a dangerous guy. So that's a really close fight to call. Almost a coin flip. I think you got to favor Volkan a little bit because of the experience, but look at Yuri's win streak, man. He's looked great in rising. But again, there's a difference between fighting guys like Daniel Cormier in the UFC and losing to them, and then beating guys like Kingbo and rising. There's a huge difference. So I got to go with, right now you got to go slightly with Volkan. But again, I'm not making my picks right now. This card's coming up in July. I got a month to make my picks. I'm just kind of giving my slight leans and early, thoughts on these fights. The other big fight would be Pedro Munoz against Frankie Edgar. Pedro Munoz minus 230, Frankie Edgar plus 190. I know Cole Shelton just did an interview with Frankie. I don't know what's coming out, probably next couple days, I would hope. And I know that Cole's got a special surprise for us, so he'll announce that himself. I don't want to spoil it for Cole, but he's got a special surprise. I'm looking forward to that. I got Brandon Parker asking about Tyson Am versus Saruk. Yeah, I'll talk about that fight after. I'm just going to go through the news first, and then I will talk about those new fights that were announced for tomorrow's card. These fights got announced last minute. All right, so UFC 251, that's basically done. Moving on to the next card. Actually, I missed a comment for Kevin here. Paige VanZant's a bad fighter. Rivas is really good. I don't agree with that at all, man. I know you don't like Paige, Kevin, and you're obviously welcome to your own opinion. I don't think she's that bad. I think people don't like her because, she is I don't really know if she's really an MMA fighter anymore. I think that's why some people don't like her. She doesn't really fight that often. She breaks her arm all the time. She's always on Instagram with her husband. So I can see why people don't like her for that. But as far as her fighting skills, I mean, she's shown some skills, man. She's shown some good skills in her career. Is she a great fighter? Not by any means, no. She is not a great fighter, but she's not that bad, So we don't need to hate on Paige here, guys. I know a lot of people, again, don't like her, but I personally don't think she's that bad of a fighter. I think she's an okay fighter. I agree Rivas is a much better fighter. But again, it's at a different weight class, so who really knows how it's going to happen? All right, next fight card, UFC 252. I got to talk about this really quickly, but Stipe will be taking on DC in their trilogy fight. This has been officially announced August 15th in Vegas. I'm guessing the Apex, but maybe they can, get it cleared in time to fight at T-Mobile. But either way, obviously a great fight. We've talked about this fight many times as well. Can't wait for this to happen. Hopefully both guys stay healthy. Cross your fingers, and we'll see what happens. And I got Kenshiro here kind of bashing Paige, but let's move on from Paige, guys. I think we've talked about her enough here. So UFC 252, great fight in the main event. We don't know anything else that's going to happen on that card. Man, you got to wonder, if John Jones fights, I know he's in a contract dispute. What card is he going to fight on? Because right now all these cards are booked. Skipping ahead, UFC 253. This fight is not official, but Kambachi announced this week it's going to be Khabib versus Gaethje. That's on September 19th. So that card's full too. I guess you're looking at October for a guy like Jones or even Conor. Conor's going to have to weigh well. Remember when Conor said, guys, he had his season lined up. He's going to fight 3 times this year, and he was all cocky about it. He's fought once against Cerrone for 40 seconds. He hasn't fought yet. There's no fight booked. Who knows if he can fight before the end of the year? Gotta love Conor, but I can see why he's frustrated, why he made that retirement announcement. There's no card. There's no fight coming up. The only fight you can do for Conor right now is Jorge Masvidal. That's the only fight you can do right now for Conor. Can the UFC figure that fight out? I don't know. I'd love to see it personally, but we'll see what happens. So I got through those cards. Okay, now I'm going to get to UFC Fight Night Calvillo and because there were a few fights that were changed at the last minute. So let me just pull the card out, guys. So basically, so there's 2 fights that were changed since I talked about the breakdown the other day. You guys can go back to Tuesday and listen to those fights if you didn't hear them already. Get my picks out. It's already cool. Okay, so I got 2 fights to talk about here. I'll start with the one that you guys are talking about in the chat here. It would be Tyson Nam against Zaruk Adashev. So Zaruk is taking the fight at short notice for Ryan Benoit, who's pulled out. Now, Brandon's asking who my pick is, and we got Kenshiro saying he likes the younger newcomer guy, and Brandon Parker says, I don't know, he's 3-1, 5 cans, plus saying it's a pick 'em. Guy has no experience. Yeah. Okay. So this is a close fight. I think a pick'em line seems right. Personally, I don't think you could be too confident in either guy. The odds open at Nam minus 245 and Zaruk at plus 175. I would have been all over Zaruk at that price. I didn't see it personally. Maybe Kenshiro got it because clearly he likes him. I think people were right to take him at plus 175. I think right now it's a tough fight to pick, one of the toughest fights in the card, because first off, we've never seen this guy fight before in the UFC. He has fought before in Bellator, but he only has 4 fights. He is a glory guy, though, from what I've heard, so he has experience in kickboxing and other combat sports. But as far as his MMA experience, is very limited. He's been fighting as a pro since 2015, only fought 4 times. He is on a 3-fight win streak, but you look at who he's fought. I mean, the level of competition is just terrible. Last guy he beat is 3-1. Guy before that's 0-2, 0-1, and then the one guy he lost to was 1-1. So his level of competition has been garbage. Tyson Nam has fought a who's who of fighters, and he has 30 fights. And he's fought everyone basically that's good at 125, 135 for 10 years now. I remember when this guy knocked out Eduardo Dantes in 2012, and that was a huge upset at the time. I mean, that was a big win for him. But, this is a guy who's been around even longer than that. I mean, he used to fight in Elite XC and Icon Sport way back in the Robbie Lawler and Frank Trigg days. So he's been around forever. Looking at some of his other wins, Ali Bagatinov, that's a huge win, knocked him out. Of course, lost 2 straight fights in the UFC, but again, KK France, great fighter. Sergio Pettis, really good fighter. So to me, this guy has had some tough fights. I picked Ryan Benoit against Tyson Nam, but by a really close decision. I don't know about this one, guys. This is tough, honestly. Not confident by any means. I'm going to slightly lean towards Tyson Nam just to win the decision, outpoint Zaruk. because he is a mixed martial artist. I think he'll be able to kind of mix it all up and get maybe some takedowns and grapple this guy against the fence. Would I be surprised if Tyson Nam loses this fight? No. You don't bet on this fight, in my opinion. It's dog or pass. I think at plus 175, you got that at the opener. That was really good value on the dog, and I would have taken that too. But right now, plus 105, I don't see too much value personally. My pick's going to be Tyson Nam by decision in this fight, but definitely an interesting fight. I think it could be a dog or pass situation because at Tyson Nam's age, it's hard to be too confident in him beating anyone at this division. At 125, it's not a division that favors like older fighters. This guy's a lot younger than him, so he could definitely pull it off. But interesting fight. The other fight that was announced is a main card fight. It would be Merab Dvalishvili against Gustavo Lopez. So this was interesting. Basically, Ray Borg actually got a comment from Kevin about this earlier. Borg should retire and find a job that offers health insurance. I realize his son is sick. He's a nice guy, constantly pulling the fights. It's not fair. His opponent should be tolerated by the UFC. This is a tough one. This is, and he says, I definitely would accept a fight against him if it's offered. This is a really tough one with Ray Borg. So Ray is a good fighter. I wouldn't say great. He has fought for the title, obviously, at 125. He's a guy that when he came to the UFC in 2014, my God, he looked amazing. I remember the fight at Dustin Ortiz. I believe that was his debut, and it was like a fantastic performance. And he lost that fight, but you could see how special this guy was with the grappling. Since then, he's obviously had kind of an up and down run in the UFC. The problem with Ray Borg is obviously he's pulled out of a lot of fights, and a lot of it's not his fault. Like, he's had some really bad luck. I remember he had like a car accident once, and obviously his son Anthony has had a lot of health issues. Like, the poor kid, right? You got to feel bad for the little guy, his son, and obviously, like anyone in the world, your family comes first, right? So him pulling out the last second, and we don't know the exact reason why, but he did post a photo of his son and said, I'm coming home to see you. You got to imagine the kid is sick again, which is obviously really sad. It's a tough situation in the UFC because I think they have a soft spot for Ray Borg, and they're not blaming him because his son is sick. At the same time, though, Kevin, I do see your point for sure, because if you're taking a fight against Ray Borg, there's a very good chance the fight's not going to happen. It's just a fact. I mean, you look at how many pull-ups this guy's had, and again, not all of them are his fault, but you look at his UFC career. Okay, so I want to count, and I don't want to harp on Ray Borg because, again, I feel bad for this dude because of everything that's going on, but he's had this many fights. He's had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 fights in the UFC, and he's withdrew, or his opponent, anyways, canceled bouts is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 canceled fights. He's had more canceled fights than fights. That's not good. So, yeah, it's definitely risky to take a fight with Ray Borg for sure. Again, feel bad for the dude. Hope he's okay. Hope his son's feeling better. But Kevin, you're right. I mean, you made a great point. You take a fight against Ray Borg, you have no idea what's going to happen. So it's unfortunate because I think this fight against Merab actually would have been a really fun fight. Two guys are really good at grappling, obviously. Now Merab's fighting Gustavo Lopez, and basically what happened was the UFC announced this fight was going to take place yesterday at 140 pounds catch weight. And then like an hour later, Cameron McLaren, who's the CEO of Combachi Americas, came out and released a statement saying that they still had this guy under contract and that this guy had signed with the UFC and breaking his contract. Daniel Rubenstein, who is the manager of Gustavo Lopez, and a bunch of other guys like Peter Yan and a couple other guys, he went out there and said basically he screwed up. It was his fault. He didn't read the contract correctly, and that they were right, and he was talking to Combachi. A few minutes later, you saw Cameron McLaren go on Twitter and announce that they've released him. So it's a tough spot for Combachi because obviously they're not doing any events right now, and you can't stop a guy from making a living. But at the same time, this guy and his manager, they screwed up. And if Combachi said, we're not letting this guy go, I wouldn't have been too upset at that because this guy breached his contract. At the same time, though, they did the right thing. They let this guy go. So, it's tough for them, though, because this guy's been in Combachi for 5 years, and he's their champion at bantamweight. So they lost their champion and didn't even get to talk about it with them. So it's a rough spot for them. Anyways, as far as this guy, Gustavo Lopez, goes, he's on a 3-fight win streak. He's mostly fought Combachi America. He's fought once in Bellator. Level of competition's been pretty weak. He's fought a couple guys with names like Andre Ewell, got knocked by him a couple years ago. Mostly not anyone good. But he does finish fights, so this is an interesting addition at 135. I think it's a good signing for the weight class for sure. But how can you not go and take Merab in this fight? I mean, Merab is an absolute beast. I'm looking at the line. The line opened at minus 300 yesterday. I was like, okay, that seems right. It's at minus 1,000 now for Merab. So this other guy's plus 580. I'll tell you guys, I'm picking Merab probably to win the decision. He could finish this guy, though, I think. Maybe ground and pound or submission. Minus 1,000. I wouldn't even put this guy in a parlay, honestly. I love Merab. He's a great fighter. He's so underrated. the wrestling is just incredible to watch. But minus 1,000 against a guy who has nothing to lose, literally nothing to lose, and who has knockout power. Like, we've seen Merab lose. He has lost. Like, controversial fashion a few times, but he's lost. If Gustavo Lopez goes in there and knocks him out, I don't think it'd be the biggest upset ever, which right now it's trending towards being one of the biggest upsets ever. I don't see that being the case. I think this guy has a chance to win. Not a good chance, but a chance. My pick's Merab Dvalishvili by decision. Having said that, I wouldn't lay minus 1,000 on him. I think that's nuts. Got a couple comments here, Kenshiro. Well, you 100% can't jump on Ray Borg. He has to fight for his son's medical bill. It's not like he wants to fight all the time. Agreed, but, his son, again, feel bad for the guy, but 13 withdrawals and fights, 13 canceled fights. His son, I don't think is even 5 years old. So there's been other fights before his son was born where Ray pulled out for other reasons as well. The guy does pull out of a lot of fights. It's just a fact. Again, you got to feel bad for him, though. In this case, again, the UFC has a soft spot for him. It's not like Ray Borg can switch jobs and make more than he does as a UFC fighter. Agreed with that as well. It's a tough spot. So will they cut him? No. I saw some people saying they should cut Ray Borg. I don't think so. I don't think they'll cut him. The weight missing is something that I think that they shouldn't have tolerated so much. They tolerated a lot of him with missing weight, but his son being sick is something I think the UFC can handle. But I'm with Kevin in that if you sign a contract to fight Ray Borg, you're not likely to fight Ray Borg. You're likely going to fight someone who's a replacement opponent, and that's just the facts, guys. That's just the facts because he has more canceled fights than actual fights in the UFC. Love Ray Borg. Feel bad for him. Feel bad for his kid, but he doesn't make it to the fight half the time, more than half the time. Marcus Williams, what's going on, Marcus? Unless Jorge Masvidal rematches Nate Diaz, I think not fighting Usman will end up being a bad financial move. Jorge beating Usman would have given Jorge the most leverage to negotiate a new deal. Yeah, this is definitely an interesting one. So basically, the UFC, Masvidal's saying they were lowballing him, but from what we heard, they offered him. I think Ariel reported this. They offered him the exact contract he fought Nate Diaz with. He thinks that because the Nate Diaz fight did so well on pay-per-view, he should be getting more than that, but Usman's not a huge draw, so I can see why the UFC kind of stuck to their guns here. Again, he fought last November? Now he's been waiting 7 months to fight. So I'm with you, Marcus. He hasn't made a paycheck since November. Obviously, he's got the Mezcal thing going on, and he's got money. Masvidal's not broke by any means. The guy, he's definitely made a lot of money in his UFC career, especially the last few fights. But I'm kind of with you, man. Turning down this fight because he wanted to make more money. He doesn't fight at all now. Now Gilbert Burns goes. Gilbert Burns got a new contract. Apparently, Usman got a new contract too. That's what Ali Abdelaziz says. Ali, by the way, manages both guys. Ali is killing it right now. Look at the double title fights he has. He's got Khabib and Gaethje coming up too. Ali's killing it. So he's doing great for his clients. You gotta love Jorge Masvidal, but you gotta question the move a little bit. I respect him for sticking to his guns, Marcus. He wants to make more money, but at the same time, he's not going to make anything now. It's almost like it's better to make something than nothing. But at the same time, that's what these guys are going to bat against the UFC for now. They're basically saying they put them in a hole and say, either you take this fight or you don't fight. That's what these guys are upset about. They want options. They want to have the ability to test the free market and see what they're actually worth. So it's him sticking to his guns. But at the same time, I'm kind of with you in that if Masvidal went in there and beat Usman, you couldn't deny him a new contract. And then again, though, he's saying the UFC wouldn't even talk to him about a new deal for this fight. So there's obviously a lot going on behind the scenes with Masvidal, Jones, the Kawas, everyone. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. But for what we've seen on the surface, Burns is getting an amazing opportunity that Masvidal turned down. That's basically what it comes down to. Kenshiro, Borg's son is less than 2 years old and had a hole in his chest since he was 8 months. Yeah, what the kids went through, his son's less than 2. Yeah, what his son is, what Anthony's went through is terrible. I mean, you got to feel bad. It's really sad. And again, I think the UFC is okay with him. I don't think they're okay with it, but they understand when he has to withdraw because his son is sick. But the guy's missed weight 4 or 5 times. That's the stuff that really pisses off the matchmakers more than him pulling out because of the son is sick. So, again, I don't think Ray Borg gets cut, but when you're fighting Ray Borg and he pulls out, it's got to be frustrating. You're training for a guy. In this case, though, to be fair, it was a really short notice fight, 2 weeks notice. So it's not like Merab's been training for Ray Borg for 3 months. It is frustrating, though. Anyways, let's get to some other stuff here. Got some fight announcements, other ones. Abdul Razak Alhassan is actually making his return, guys, so that's pretty exciting. Now, this guy obviously has had some issues with the legal system, but he was recently cleared, found not guilty, so he was obviously accused of rape, and that was pretty serious stuff. He hasn't fought since September 2018, the same night that Tyron Woodley submitted Darren Till. It was the last time Abdul Razak Alhassan fought. But again, he's not guilty, so he's able to fight again. And this guy is really dangerous. He's 10-1 in his career, all 10 wins by knockout. He's the one loss to Nurmagomedov. He kind of gassed out on that fight. It was 3 years ago. Since then, knocked out Sabah Masi twice and Nico Price. The Nico Price win was super impressive. I'm really high in Nico Price. So, this guy is super dangerous. He is he's a guy that could be in the top 15, I think, if he gets a few more wins. Now, he's fighting this guy that, honestly, I don't know a lot about, Mounir Lazzez. It's kind of a weird matchup because Mounir Lazzez is a UFC newcomer, and Abdul Razak Alhassan is a guy who could be in the top 15. So, Mounir Lazzez is, they call him the sniper. He's a Dubai native, so I guess that's why he's taking this fight, because it's easy for him to get to. He is coming off back-to-back wins in his last 2 fights. I'll be honest, though, I don't know the guys he's fought. I'm just looking at his record, guys. I don't know anyone he's fought. He has fought a few times in Brave, so that's the only thing that I know about him. But if you look at his level of opposition, not good. The guy he just beat is 10-9-1. Don't even know who this guy is, Arbor Maradi. So, I don't – he does have some striking and some knockout power, as you can see from his resume, but I don't know how you could pick this guy against Abdul Razak Alhassan. Kevin Scott, Razak's a monster. Look at 170. He is really dangerous. Also, I'm Mr. Cormier here, Kevin. MMA managers don't seem very good at their jobs compared to agents in other sports. How many fighters complain about what's in the contract their managers negotiate and agree to? It's just the nature of the business, unfortunately. They get pigeonholed by the UFC. It's like take it or leave it, because a lot of these guys don't have the option to go and test the free agent market. Right now, no one else is signing fighters. Bellator is not going to sign someone right now with all the uncertainty about the economic situation in the world. So it's a tough situation. I'm with you, though, in that for too long, fighters have just taken what they get, and their managers have did a really terrible job. Do you know how many stories of managers I've heard over the years? I've covered the sport. I've covered it for 10 years now almost, and the amount of managers I've heard that basically didn't even do their clients any favors, or they took too much money. Some of these guys were taking 10, 20% when they don't even do anything for them. So a lot of guys actually manage themselves. It's an awful situation. As much as people say negative stuff about guys like Ali, he's getting these clients contracts they like, and they're always saying nice things about him. So, you could say what you want about him as a person and all that, but as a manager, the guy's doing a pretty good job for his guys. So I'm with you, Kevin. The MMA management thing needs to definitely be improved. Anyways, yeah, I'm with you. Razak Alhassan looks really good. The other fight that was announced, Felice Herrig will be taking on Virna Jandiroba at UFC 252. So Felice has been around forever. I remember seeing her on the show Fight Girls years ago. What year was that? 2007. Wow, she's been around forever. So you got to respect Felice, man. She is a pioneer of women's MMA. She's been around for a long time, but, she struggled in the UFC. She is 5-3, so she actually does have a winning record, but, coming off 2 straight losses, she hasn't fought since October 2018, the same night Khabib beat Conor. So it's been a long time since she's fought. Her best win is probably Courtney Casey at this point. Also has a decent win over Alexa Grasso, but overall, she's shown some pretty good boxing throughout her career and some submission ability, but last 2 fights showed she is beatable. She's taking on Virna Jandiroba here. Virna is coming off a win over Mallory Martin by submission in her last fight. She lost to Carla Esparza in her UFC debut. She's a former champion in Invicta. Interesting fight. Virna definitely is a pretty dangerous fighter, I think, we've seen over her career. But, Felice Herrig's got a lot of experience. And crazy enough, but, Virna's 32, so she's not that young. Felice is 35, though. So at this point, she is one of the older fighters in this division at 115. I think you got to flavor Felice a little bit. Just you got to give her that respect. But Virna is definitely a dangerous fighter. Should be an interesting fight. Getting to a few other possible matchups. Who knows? But Anthony Pettis called out Anderson Silva. Would you guys watch that fight? What do you guys think? Interesting. Obviously, Pettis is a guy who's fought at featherweight, lightweight, and welterweight. Silva's a guy who's fought mostly at middleweight. He's also fought at welterweight and light heavyweight throughout his career. But essentially, it's going to be a guy who's like a tweener between lightweight and welterweight against a guy who's a middleweight. So that's the thing I don't like about this fight, is that the weight class is, to me, there's too much of a weight discrepancy. Having said that, it would probably be a striking battle, and it'd be kind of fun to watch. I think Pettis is great with striking, so is Silva, but both guys are flaws. They can both be finished too. It's an interesting fight. Kenshiro says, Anderson fighting anyone is fun to watch. You know what? You got to love Anderson, man. 45 years old, still fighting. The guy's a legend. Has he had success? No. But you know what? Pettis hasn't really been that successful either. Other than that win over Stephen Thompson, which, again, he was losing that fight and then knocked him out with a few seconds left on the clock. And it was an incredible win, incredible knockout. But other than that, he hasn't looked that great the last few years, in my opinion. The Cerrone fight was pretty close, I guess. He did win that fight. Wasn't like a super impressive performance, but yeah, I mean, you know what? If the UFC does this fight, I wouldn't hate it. I just think there's other fights out there. I know that Anderson, he was calling out, who did he call it last week? I'll tell him also. I can't even remember who it was. Oh, Conor McGregor. Yeah, I already forgot about that because Conor's retired, right? So I'd almost rather watch Conor against Anderson, honestly, just for the spectacle of it. But if they do Pettis versus Anderson, if that headline's like a fight night card at 178-pound catchweight or something, like, would anyone hate that fight? I wouldn't hate it. Just don't know if it's the right fight. Can't sure Anderson has 10 luxury cards like Tyron Woodley, so he has to fight, needs money, age 45. He's the oldest fighter in the UFC right now, man. You got to give it up to him, Too bad Dan Henderson's not around. That'd be an interesting rematch at this point, too. Senior citizens. I'm just kidding. Speaking of Stephen Thompson, I just brought him up. Stephen Thompson did an interview with Severe MMA, and they asked him potentially about moving up to middleweight. Because right now, Stephen Thompson, he's in a really tough spot at welterweight. He's not good enough to be fighting for the belt, and he's already fought for the belt twice and didn't win. He had a draw and a loss to Woodley, controversial or not, didn't win. And right now, he's ranked number 6. He's behind so many other guys: Colby, Edwards, Burns, Masvidal, even Woodley. So he's behind 5 other guys. He's not going to be fighting for a belt anytime soon. But he's also 37 years old. He knows that his career's probably only got a few years left, even though he's still effective. We saw what happened against Vicente Luque in his last fight. Fight of the night, won the fight. He said that he would consider moving up to middleweight only to fight Israel Adesanya. And honestly, I mean, guys, that would be a great fight. Wonder Boy versus Adesanya. I know that Adesanya's a bit bigger, obviously a bit longer, a bit taller, but Woodley's incredible, or Wonder Boy's an incredible striker. And you have 2 of the best strikers in the world going at it, in the UFC going at it. Like, that'd be a fun fight to watch. So honestly, I'm down. But it's not going to happen anytime soon. Adesanya is the champ. So, unless he loses his belt, it's possible. I mean, he could lose to Paulo Costa at some point. I would love to see Woodley or Wonder Boy versus Adesanya, but I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. It is an interesting fight. It's like a dream fight that probably doesn't make sense based on titles and the rankings and stuff. And here's a funny one. Tito Ortiz says he wants to become a police officer. Obviously, I'm not going to get too political here, but I'm kind of, chewing the popcorn and reading the comments. If you guys want to throw them in about Tito Ortiz wanting to become a cop, it's pretty funny. I also saw this guy, Borchina Depot, on Twitter is so funny. He posted a picture of Tito's Instagram conversation, and he said, "I want to be a cop." He's like, "Tito, you're using the picture of the pilot, not the police officer," the little emoji guy. So I thought that was so funny. Tito's a legend. You can say what you want about Tito Ortiz, and I agree that the guy's not probably the smartest guy in the world, but first off, he's made a ton of money, way more than I'll ever make in my lifetime. So the guy's doing something right. And second off, he's been fighting in MMA for over 20 years. And even though he's not active anymore, even though he's like 45 now, he's still relevant. People still talk about Tito Ortiz all the time. You got to give it up to Tito, man. The guy's had an amazing career for a guy that's not like the most skilled fighter that's ever lived. He's had an amazing career, seriously. And he's still like making money. He's still being talked about. So, you can say what you want about Tito, and this whole thing about being a cop it's pretty funny, but man, it's crazy that in 2020, we're talking about a guy in Tito Ortiz that started fighting the UFC in 1987, so 23 years. Pretty crazy stuff. If you guys have any last second questions, throw them in there, guys. I want to answer anything you have to say. Just looking to see what else, if I missed anything. Sean O'Malley, he's out there. He talked to Cole the other day, and he said that he's interested in Marlon Vera. So that'd be a good fight, I think. We talked about this the other day. Marlon's ranked number 15, I believe, right now. So Sean's not ranked. I think that's a perfect fight. Sean, he wants Garbrandt too, but I don't think that fight's going to happen anytime soon. Okay, Cheers says, I want to retire and stay away from the camera. But he's so much fun, man. He gives us something to write about. Gabe Killing, what's going on, Gabe? Got any big plays tomorrow, Pim? Well, let's take a look at it. I haven't made any big plays yet. I'll tell you right now, Gabe, I really liked Agapova when she opened at minus 160. I'm not going to lie, but didn't get it on it. And right now it's minus 350, so I don't love her anymore. He says, who are your live dogs? I'll tell you who's my live dog right now, Gabe. I don't know if you saw the podcast Tuesday, but since I got some love for you, Gabe, I'll give you my my dogs I picked on Tuesday. Charles, Air, Jourdain, the line's even better now. Plus 195. I think Charles Jourdain has a great chance to win this fight. Andre Fili's really good. Don't get me wrong. He's awesome. I just think the line should be a lot closer. I think it should be like minus 140, minus 150 for Andre Fili and like plus 120, plus 130 for Jourdain. So almost plus 200. You got to take a shot on Charles Jourdain in this fight. He's fighting at his natural weight class. We saw what happened when he fought to Choi. He's got knockout power. Andre Fili has been finished before. Andre Fili is more technical on the feet, I think. Really good striker, don't get me wrong, and very experienced. But I like Jourdain in this fight. James says you'll be surprised Jourdain wins. James is great, and I respect his opinion, but I didn't think Jourdain would win the last fight. I'll tell you what. Oh, you like him too, eh, Gabe? That's good. Again, not every favorite's going to win. You look at this card, a lot of the favorites should win. You look at a fight of Merab, Agapova, Aguilar, Avila. Like, there's some big favorites in this card, but I'm telling you right now, there's going to be a few dogs that win. The other dog I had, Gabe, was Cynthia Calvillo, and she's only a slight dog right now at -105. I don't know how you feel about that fight, Gabe. I don't know if you're writing for Oddsbreaker anymore, Gabe. I have been following your plays on Twitter, your Fight Right Money Club, I think it's called. So I know you've been killing it, Gabe. And, a lot of love to you, man. Long-time writer, MMAOddsbreaker.com. Again, I'm not sure if Gabe's still with the team anymore, but we all got a lot of love for Gabe there. Kenshiro says, best dog is Charles Rosa. Cole did pick Charles Rosa. And again, that fight right now, -200, +170, it seems kind of wide. I think that he's got a chance. Oh, here's Gabe's dogs. Calvillo, so I liked him. He likes Adeshev, Mounir, and Aguilera. Yeah, the Aguilera fight, that's a toss-up fight against Ivy. I mean, two guys that are making their debuts on 1 week's notice. It's dog or pass. I picked Ivy in the podcast. I think I picked him by knockout, but Aguilera for sure has shots. And Mounir, that's an interesting one because, again, they have fought before, and Griffin won the fight by stoppage, but Mounir is super dangerous in that first round. And Griffin has a lot of flaws. Like, look at the last fight that he had against TJ Brown. He was in trouble in that fight a lot. Ended up getting the win, but it wasn't easy to do. So I think he's got a chance. But yeah, officially I'm picking two dogs, Calvillo and Jourdain. But, it's hard to go perfect on cards. I've only been perfect once. It was last December in the Overeem Rosenstruck card. That's the only time I've ever been perfect on cards. It's very hard to go a perfect 12-0 or whatever it is. Very difficult. So I expect another dog to win, Gabe, and definitely could be some of the guys you picked. Gabe says he's still with MMAOB, haven't been writing. Well, I'd love to see you write again, man, because I really liked reading your articles. I missed this by Kevin. How is Canada looking at COVID starting to open up? Yeah, I'm following it every day, man. So basically, there's still people testing positive in Ontario where I live. 200 people tested positive, I think, yesterday. So it's going down. It was 400 a day for a while. Now it's down to 200. That's good. Things are slightly opening up, but not crazy. There's 3 stages. We're still in stage 1. Parts of the province are in stage 2 now, but I think we're getting to stage 2. But it's tough, man. It's tough, guys. It really is. I miss hanging out with my friends. I have been a little bit, but not really, because I'm trying to respect social distancing rules, and I haven't been going out too much. I've spent a lot of time just honestly reading and writing about MMA the last few months, and a lot of video games and stuff, and a lot of movies. But I really miss playing sports. I haven't been able to play any sports all summer. Bowling, softball. These are things I really enjoy doing. I can't do them, so it sucks. Bars and restaurants are not open yet. Takeout, obviously. I've been eating too much takeout, honestly, but I'm sure I'm not the only person. But yeah, it's been a couple tough months. I don't know where you are, Kevin. You can tell me. I can't remember where you are in the world, but yeah, it's opening up slowly but surely. But hopefully in the next couple of months. I hope by September things cleared up. But I don't know. I'll say this though. I'm really happy we get to watch UFC, man. It's pretty sweet. The one sport that's still around right now, and there's not too much haggling with the unions and stuff. Gabe says Robertson will win if it stays standing. He's got a chance to win too. I was thinking about that. Everyone's picking Vettori, and I'm going to pick him by decision, but I think it's going to be a much closer fight than a lot of people think. You need a lot of luck to get perfect card. I agree with that. I mean, the one I did get perfect, there was a draw with Yadong and Stamen, which a lot of people thought was a bad decision. So it's very difficult. Kevin says he's in New Jersey. Okay, Kevin. So how's it going there? I know you guys, New Jersey, New York, had a lot of cases a few months ago. Hopefully it's clearing up a bit, but I know that with such a high population density that it's probably pretty bad. Kenshiro, Phil Cohen is a way overreaction of governments to everyone locking down those elections because even one death can lead to election loss. It's definitely political, man. There's a lot of this stuff is political. It's pretty crazy what's going on. But I'm with you. At this point, it's the projections never got matched with the amount of deaths there has been. But maybe that's because they put all these rules in place with social distancing and this thing and stuff. Hopefully, Sweden and Denmark never close their doors and definitely lower other EU countries. Yeah, that's definitely a case study. I mean, when this is all over and done with, hopefully we'll look back on this and scientists will do studies and researchers will study it and see what could have been done to do something differently. But right now, it definitely looks like, some places overreacted to the way that they locked it down. But at the same time, better safe than sorry. But dude, I miss baseball. Like, I love going to the game, man. I love going to a Jays game. I can't do that. I can't play myself. I play in the summer, right? So it's terrible. NBA, NHL, these things are coming back, but the NHL is still like I think 2 months away. These leagues are starting the end of July, August, so they're still like almost 2 months away. It sucks, but at least there's a plan coming now. You guys have any more questions? Throw them in there. I'm going to answer them. Conspiro says you had some wearing a mask in 2 months. Man, that's good, but I mean, a lot of people are obviously a little bit more worried than yourself, which is fair. But I'm glad that you're not sick. I'm glad I haven't been sick, but my uncle got sick. My uncle did have coronavirus, so it has affected my family. Thankfully, he's negative. He was negative, I think, 2 weeks after he tested positive. So he was quarantined and isolated. I didn't see him, so I wasn't even in close contact with him whatsoever. But it has affected my family, so thankfully he's okay. But, it's a real thing. I mean, straight up. So, he's saying that the pro skaters got infected. We don't, well, so far, but we'll see what happens. Again, I don't want to get too political, man. We're here to talk about MMA, right? Like, love talking about, but of course we can't ignore what's going on in the wider world. You guys have any last second questions? Throw them in right now. I'm just looking through the news, see what else I'm missing here. I see Eduardo Dantes, former training partner of Jan, and Aldo he says he's seen Aldo and Jan training together. He's picking Aldo, but he's pretty biased, I think, because Aldo's like good buddy at Nova União, where, by the way, Andre Pederneiras, the coach there, got coronavirus, so it's a very real thing. Francis Ngannou posted something cool on his Instagram, some old photos from like 2012, 2013, where he said he was in jail after an illegal entry into Europe. You got to check that out. It's pretty crazy, man. It's amazing what he's did in his career. He's such a great fighter. I love Francis Ngannou. Can't wait to see him fight again. He better fight the winner of Stipe and DC. If DC wins and he retires, let him fight Stipe for the vacant title. I'm fine with that. Or hell, just say DC wins. You could do John Jones versus Ngannou for the vacant belt. If the UFC wants to open up their wallets, which right now they don't. But can't sure, would you pay for UFC 251? Right now, it looks like a great card. I think it's definitely worth the money. Again, I think you can do different fights possibly, but I think that right now it looks pretty good. I usually buy pay-per-views that have 3 title fights. For sure, I was at the last one in Vegas with the 3 title fights: Volkanovski and Holloway, Usman and Covington, and Nunes and Durandamy. So you gotta love when it's 3 title fights. It happens like once a year, maybe twice a year. It's very rare. Again, with 12 belts, like it's going to happen now a little bit more than it used to happen back in the old days. But anytime you have 3 belts on the line, I mean, that's a big card, right? Again, I think you could have did different fights here. You could have did Usman versus Masvidal. You could have did Volkanovski against Korean Zombie or something, and you could have did Yan versus Sterling. But to me, it's like we're still getting 3 title fights, and honestly, this card is great. Again, I just don't think Rebus should be in the main and Van Zandt should be in the main card. That's all. I think the rest of the card is great. Okay, sure. I think if pay-per-views at 8 fights, not 5, you can see the pay-per-view buys double, possibly. But again, they have to meet their ESPN deal. So the ESPN, they make a lot of money from ESPN, probably more than the pay-per-view money. So they got to put some good fights on there. Just seeing if I missed anything else. I think I've got everything, guys. I mean, if there's anything else you want to throw in there, go ahead. See if there's any other. There's some other odds that pop up this week. This is one I do want to talk about quickly. I don't know why this popped up, but a rematch between John Jones and Ryan Bader, the odds have been released for that fight, and John Jones is 275, Ryan Bader plus 200. I love Ryan Bader. He's great. He's looked amazing in Bellator, but he's looked amazing in Bellator. It's a lot different than the UFC, and Ryan Bader had a good run in the UFC. I think he was like 13-5, if I'm not mistaken, so he had a really good run, but we saw what happened. These guys fought 10 years ago. I don't think anything would happen differently now. I think Jones would win that fight. Anyways, I think that's it, guys. I've got like 50 minutes. My voice is going to go. Okay, Chiro, good job, Adam. I appreciate it, man. Thanks. And you know what, guys? You guys are the ones I should say good job to. I really appreciate you guys jumping in, joining me, talking about MMA. I know, kind of early in the morning, but I love talking about the sport with you guys, and I really appreciate the questions. All right, so let me plug some stuff here and get out of here. All right, Twitter, at MMAOB, right at the bottom of the screen there. You guys can follow me there, and then I'm at MMAOddsbreaker.com, bjpen.com, MMARings.net. Oddsbreaker, you go check there for the staff picks tomorrow. They'll be released. And then as well, I got opening odds and main event breakdown further detail. Of course, Tuesday, myself and Cole broke down this entire card, I versus Calvillo. So go back and check that out. BJPen.com, always got the news there. Definitely, I think we have one of the better news websites right now going on. So definitely check it out. And MMARings.net, I just sent in a few articles actually. So they'll be posted in the next few days. Got one on Jones in the UFC. Got one on Fight Island. I got one on Burns getting the title shot over Masvidal. Definitely just go and check all that stuff out. And the last comment here from Kenshiro, because I love you. John Jones will never go to Bellator. No one can afford Jones inside the UFC. And once Jones gets his 10 million to fight again, Jones won't care anymore. Jones is not going to Bellator. The UFC would never let him go. They would never let him go. Even if he went to court, they wouldn't let him go. He's not going. He's not going to Bellator. I bet any money on it. Jones will fight in the UFC for the rest of his career until he retires. And I think he's going to be a guy that probably hangs it up on a win streak like GSP or something like that, because I don't see him going on a loss. All right, guys, that's it for today. I really appreciate it. We'll be back Tuesday breaking down the next card, which is Volkov and Blades, and recapping this weekend's card. Have an amazing weekend, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.